We're back. Podcast number 454. Thank you. The last one was pretty deep, and I didn't realize until you shared it. We went over an hour, and remember on our pilot,
Right.
you were like, "How long are these usually?" And I said an hour, and you were like, "Oh no, 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 no."
We're not
This,
talking for an hour. We're not
yeah,
recording for an hour.
that one went well over an hour. There was a lot to discuss. And in that, I wanted to elaborate on a few things, since it couldn't go. I mean, I've seen some podcasts going 2-3 hours, but no, we'll break and then we'll start with another one and add to if we need to. And so I just wanted to dive a little deeper into the emotional intelligence part of, well, and everything that we've been discussing really. Been talking about mental health, the first two, mine and yours, and then this last one with losing our dad, and even career. Um, and emotional intelligence, I don't believe is something you need to study and be smart in. I think emotional intelligence, that word intelligence is, it throws it off. I think, I don't know the actual definition,
Oh,
but
I have it. Would you like to know?
before you read it, I just, and my understanding of it, it's with you being able to identify what's going on in you, the emotion that's going on in you, and you're able to work through it without letting it run you, being less reactive to your emotions and more, what's the word, less reactive and more
Proactive.
proactive. Okay. Proactive on a situation, and going within to identify what's going on with you, and why this thing made you feel the way it did. And go ahead with the actual definition.
Well, according to Google, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways, to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict.
That's well worded and pretty much what I said, but way better worded than how I said it.
Wikipedia is defined as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. People with high emotional intelligence can recognize their own emotions and those of others, use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior, discern between different feelings and label them appropriately, and adjust emotions to adapt to environments. Well, I know a lot of emotionally unintelligent people.
Yeah, so do I. And I'm, I wouldn't say I'm intelligent, but I'm studying. um but that's what I was mentioning to you earlier. When it's not really taught to us when we're growing up, how to identify, like they show us what emotions are, but not how to manage them. And when we're little, they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up, and what are your grades? And it's all academic, not your emotionally well-being, because no one until now, it was never really discussed or brought up or even educated on it. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can on that, and I'm trying to teach that to my kids. I mean, I have a 2-year-old who has tantrums every day. And I know that a lot of it is um not being able for her is not being able to communicate what she has in her head, kind of like what I go through still. She has a hard time communicating going on in her head because she doesn't have the vocabulary yet. And and then, a kindergartner that has a lot going on that can't communicate well either. And tantrums happen, and I I ask them, what are you mad? Are you sad? Like what are you feeling? So then they can try to identify what it is that they're feeling, and then I try to, tell them, okay, we don't have to scream and yell. I know you're upset, but let's try to breathe, and we'll figure it out together. Um that just happened yesterday actually with my son. He was throwing a tantrum. He was panicking actually. And my husband told him, "Cut it out. You're acting ridiculous." And okay, if he cuts it out, what he's not he'll cut it out, but it's still in there. He's just going to cram it down, and then it's just he's going to learn to cram everything down, and because it bothers other people, instead of identifying what it is, why he's making being upset, and then what he can do to another way uh to manage that emotion. um so I told my husband, I said, okay, if he knocks it off, what does he do with that emotion? And I said it out loud in front of my son, so we can, like, we're all figuring it out together. And then my husband's like, breathe, breathe. So I started talking to my son, okay, let's take a breath. And so when we say breathe and he's in the middle of an attack, he goes, I'm like, that's not breathing. We got to take a nice big breath and hold it for a second and just let it out. And it really does. When we're upset, we stop breathing. We don't even realize it. And it makes our body go into a whole thing, which magnifies the emotion that we're going through. And if even just resetting on breathing helps tremendously, and then you could think rationally, and you're not in that loop that you're in. And yeah, it's a big lifelong journey, and especially
Right.
me starting to learn this in my 30s. um I would have loved to have been uh made aware of this younger, so I could learn how to handle situations,
Life.
tough situations.
Right.
Life itself is full of things that even triggers. You got triggers. We were talking about triggers and another podcast, and it's all related. It's all woven together.
Yes, it is. I was just thinking that as you were talking, just the past few episodes have been about mental health. Um, I mean, this emotional intelligence is tightly related to mental health and how we um, manage our mental health and issues as they come up in our lives. And yes, I have. So my daughter's 9, and she's highly sensitive, and we are absolutely deep into this identifying emotions and how to manage emotions. And just because you feel anxiety doesn't mean you have like an anxiety diagnosis. She's really interested in, do I have anxiety? Well, everybody has anxiety. It's just what you do with it and how you handle it. And so yeah, we're all the time here too of identifying emotions and figuring out what to do with them and handling them and managing them. And and trying to teach that to my kids as well.
Yeah. You made me think of um when she said, "Do I have anxiety?" That was really good language. And what I mean by that is the English language, we say I am sad, I am hungry, I am mad. And I know in Spanish it's not I am, it's I have.
I
I have
have. Uh-huh.
I have hunger, I have anger, I have sadness.
Mm,
And just that little word definition
yeah,
changes everything.
that's true. It's not your identity. It's just something
It's
you're
not your
experiencing.
yes. And i- if you're always like, me, when had my depression,
Am
I'm
depressed.
sad. I identified it as me instead of me being a person who experiences this.
Mhm.
I made it part of my being, and I don't anymore.
Identity.
I don't anymore, and I disidentify with a lot of things now. Um, I'm just
You,
experiencing things
oh,
versus
okay.
it's me. Yes, and that in and of itself has a big, big impact on how we feel about ourselves and situations. Um,
Right. How we view ourselves, yeah, what's our identity? Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. Hold on one second.
So I went to a yard sale.
it's not your identification. It is something you're experiencing, and that, like I said, in and of itself, just blew my mind. It changed so much for me,
Right.
because it was, to me, it was, that's me. That's, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's me. All these negative things, and like, no, it's not me. It's something I went through or experienced, and
Or struggle
that
with.
was
You know what?
mhm.
At Celebrate Recovery, I talked a little bit about it, and it's kind of modeled after AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, but Celebrate Recovery is just more generalized for anything you struggle with. And that's a determination. Like at AA, people might say, "Hi, I'm an alcoholic," is how they introduce themselves. But in Celebrate Recovery, you say, "I struggle with whatever it is. I
That's
struggle with
complete.
depression.
Yeah,
I struggle with alcohol. I struggle with lust. I struggle with control. I struggle with pride." It's
yeah,
not that I am that person.
right.
Those are the
It
things I'm
it makes
struggling
a
with.
big
It makes a
difference.
big difference.
It
Yeah.
really does.
Because we can overcome it. It's a lot of work.
Yes, we can. It is. It's a lot of self inquiry. It's a lot of self talk. It's a lot of
Self
which
awareness.
I self awareness and mindfulness. So much of that, yes, and especially now that I've been practicing mindfulness, and just being more self aware of uh, through therapy and EMDR, and with the EMDR, you get
Oh, you're frozen. Ooh, no, you're frozen, Michelle. Damn it.
I'm gonna leave and come back.
Okay, you're back. Okay, I see you.
Okay.
Okay, EMDR. Oh gosh, we already have 2 edits.
um, with EMDR, where I feel the emotion I'm feeling, but I also am asked to see what it's doing in my body, and just being more self aware of our bodies, what's going on with us as people, as human beings. And it's helped tremendously. It has. And I I want I want to learn as much as I can about it. And um I've also um touched on my career a little bit on the last one, and when they asked me to be in management, I was like, okay, well, I that wasn't my goal in my career. My goal was not to be managing people. But I accepted because they needed a leader and they thought I was a good candidate. And so, but in me accepting it, I said, I need training. I've never managed people before. I need some type of training. And they complied, and I got a whole, like, I took a UCR 6 week course of management skills, leadership skills, and it had nothing to do with work. It had to do with people,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with people, all kinds of different people, and if you're not in tune with people and their emotions and where they're coming from, you can't be an effective manager or leader. So emotional intelligence is really big for the workplace and all the different people that you work with, and everyone's coming from all walks of life in this one setting, and you all have a common goal as to whatever it is at your company, but you're dealing with so much, and it's like completely, it blew my mind, and it was very, very interesting and informative. Wow, like, you got to be a people person, and you
You're like,
gotta
oh no.
yeah, you also gotta take, I mean, I think great leaders took psychology classes or are in tune with
They have to.
emotional
Yeah.
intelligence, because if you're not in tune with the people, how are you gonna lead them? Yeah.
Right. I heard this, someone had once said that leaders have to be able to lead themselves first before they can lead anyone else.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like if you're
Yeah.
not in tune with, if you're not self-aware, or if
Yeah.
you're reactive and not proactive, or
Yeah.
uh, able to manage your emotions, and how can you possibly lead anyone else to do that or
Yeah.
manage that?
Oh,
Hmm.
that's a great, yes.
we we had this emotional intelligence training at work a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
did you?
it
That's
was really good.
awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
because we, as a social worker, we deal with a lot of uh, people who are going through really intense times, have a lot of needs. Um, uh, anyway, so we have to be able to manage our emotional intelligence before we can begin helping other people. But anyways, one of the emails I got about it, it says that I loved what it said: 5 elements to make up emotional intelligence. 1, self-awareness; 2, self-regulation; 3, motivation; 4, empathy; and 5, social skills. And that's all exactly what we're talking about, is
Yeah.
like you said, you have to be a people person to be able to, as far as leadership and stuff. But
Right. Yeah, and I think I am more now, as in this year. Um, but I wasn't. And when I took the class, the management class, I was very overwhelmed, and like I just want to sit at my desk and do my job. I don't, this is a lot of, it's a lot of, it's a lot to take on. And if you are a company that's wants to promote a good worker to leadership, you got to take that in mind too. And I don't think, I mean, I get along with people at work, but as far as leading them, maybe they saw potential in me, but at the time, this was 6 years ago. At the time, I was another, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing thing. Um, you're throwing me in this role. I mean, they didn't throw me, they asked, and then I asked to take the training because management was never in my agenda for my career, but it did help me grow, and it did make me look into things. We had to take a quiz of how we saw ourselves, and it was really eye-opening, and I did not like it. I'm like, why are we doing this? This isn't making parts. This isn't what I have a therapist. I don't need to do this at work. But it was eye-opening, and I'm grateful now that I went through all that, because
Yeah.
I was walking around blind
Mm,
and reactive,
mm,
uh very reactive, stress out easy. The simplest thing would I just feel overwhelmed all the
uh-huh.
time. It's everything happening. It's just, instead of everything was happening to me, instead of things are happening and I'm
Happening.
experiencing it. It was
Mm,
the I am thing versus
it
I'm
is.
experiencing. Yes.
Mhm.
That
Hey, Michelle, can you share the no, I don't think so, but
Okay.
that experience with a coworker where he came in and was like super upset about, and was like made himself look ridiculous, like he was, I won't say the story.
Okay, yeah. I have,
Cause,
I
'cause you
mean,
called me right after, yeah, and it's
especially in male dominant field, I get talked down to a lot. I I want to say lately it's been a lot better, but in the beginning it was when I was younger and probably looked more naive, and I was, and I was still learning, and they would say things they shouldn't say. Um, yeah, one time I was working, and a coworker came up to me very upset, and I don't even I was in the zone in my work. I don't even know what was going on, and he just started scolding me, and I felt when he came up to me and just started scolding me, and it it caught me off guard. I was in the middle of something, and he was talking about another project that happened the day before, so he just started talking like I was in his head and I knew what he was talking about. And so and then his tone, and it was a trigger, because growing up we got yelled at um a lot. We had So when he started raising his voice and came at me, I felt like I was 5 or
a
6
little girl. Yeah.
again, and getting in trouble for I don't know why. And so it brought me back to that, and I started getting overwhelmed, and he was scolding me about something, asking me questions, and I answered him, but then he got more defensive, and so I told him, okay, let's calm down and breathe. And I said
I
that
love that.
out loud to him, because he needed to calm down clearly, but I needed to calm down too, because I was overwhelmed and feeling like I was being cornered, and I didn't want to come off as a scared kid. So, because I had no idea how to respond to it. So I was like, okay, let's breathe. Let's calm down. Let's take a minute. I didn't say calm down. I just said, let's take a minute and breathe. And I started breathing, and he's like, I don't need to breathe. Like he was going off. He just went, and as he was going off, I was breathing, and I was not getting more upset. I actually wasn't even listening. I just heard kind of like the Peanuts, Charlie
Peanuts, yeah.
Brown. I just heard noise, because I needed to calm down. I needed to calm myself down. And then once I did that, I was able to calmly
Fun.
answer his questions. and then he left, and then he came back 20 minutes later with another just he was just not in a good mood that day, and I didn't take it personal, which I in the past would have. I started to, because it was a trigger, but I stopped it. I identified with it and I stopped it, and then I was like, well, he's going through something, but it has nothing to do with me.
Right. He's obviously having issues right now. This is
Yeah.
his issue, not mine.
Not mine. Yeah. Yeah, but that's something that is not talked about or
No.
taught. And if we had these tools, like I said, I'm in my 30s, just barely learning this. If I knew this as a child, adolescence would have been very different.
True.
High
Young
school would have
adulthood.
been very different. Everything
Right.
would have been very different. But
Mm.
I also have to look at it like, instead of should have, that would have been nice. It made me who I am today, all those hard times. And it's kind of like the, what is it? There's no light. There's no, if everything was light, there would be no light. Like, you need darkness for light, and
There's no rainbow without the storm.
all of those
Yeah.
great things. So if I didn't have any dark moments, none of this stuff would be exciting to me. I would just be like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. Welcome to my
Yeah.
world. What took you so long?
Oh, that nothing's exciting to you because you already knew it?
No, I'm saying you would say that. That's how you
Oh,
we would
yeah.
respond.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like just like you're like, yeah, I know that. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, yeah.
What took
I
you
thought
so
you were
long?
telling me this. Yes.
No, I'm on my
Okay.
own journey. And you know what? I hope I continually learn. I mean, growing pains can be painful, but I hope that, I never want to get to that peak. I always want to grow and learn about myself. And one of the things right now, actually at Celebrate Recovery on Thursday, I mean on Thursday nights, you can take these chips, and I took a chip. Actually, I'll share the whole story because you texted me at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yes.
um,
Yeah. And
so
you're like, you have to call me.
yes, so
Synchronicities.
I took a chip, and it kind of represented a whole bunch of stuff, like the next level of my self-awareness, the next level of intentional living, the next level of health and self-actualization. And like, I'm ready to go to the next level. And there are things that I need to surrender. And so it was kind of like a symbol for me in that way. And so in our small group, I was talking, and I had shared how I was symbolizing that for me, or why I took my blue chip, my 24-hour chip of what I'm surrendering. And I had said, my goal is to live an untriggered life. Like, I would say probably the past year and a half, I've been going to pretty intense therapy and this self-discovery. And when you think of someone being triggered, I kind of thought it was more like beforehand. I thought, oh, people are triggered. Like, you think about the war vet and when they hear the fireworks,
PTSD.
yeah, they're triggered because they had PTSD and they're being traumatized again. I kind of thought of trigger in a more significant way, not
Traumatic,
just
yeah.
traumatic.
Not
But
just reminders of issues.
right, or sometimes you don't even know, and that's a self-awareness of like identifying it. And so in therapy, she's been teaching me and my husband about triggers, and she gave us this trigger worksheet, and it has been so phenomenal because, and you're right, it starts in the body. Like, I've had so many interactions with like interactions, and then like someone might just irritate me, and it just bugs me. Like I feel like an irritation, and I just dismiss it. I don't process it. I just like, some things you can dismiss, and then and sometimes it grows. Like the next time I see that person, like it just it compiles and grows,
Yeah.
and I didn't really address it systematically or work through it. I kind of just pushed it to the side, like, I shouldn't be feeling this way about that person or whatever. But this trigger worksheet, it really helps you. I have it right here. Um, Trigger transformation worksheet. You write down the occurrence or situation, and then you write down how you feel. And she gives us, did I talk about this already?
No.
Okay. She gave me this, like, these are feelings, and it's not just happy, sad, angry, scared, confused. And I also have a feeling wheel, and it seems so elementary, but this is not elementary. Like, if you think about like the feeling sad, okay, you can feel sad, or devastated, hopeless, sorrowful, depressed, wounded, drained, defeated, exhausted, helpless, crushed, worthless, uncared for, dejected. I mean, that's just a handful of dozens of feelings. So,
Hunger can cause
hungry.
all those emotions.
At the bottom, really, it should say hunger. Like that could be the core.
Have
That's
you
the core.
have you eaten today? Because
Are you
if not,
tired?
you might.
Are you
Yeah.
hangry?
Yeah.
But going through that, like specifically, how am I feeling? Identifying those emotions, and then what do I want, need, or wish? What does it look like when filtered through the lens of truth? What's the reality check? And that is always the point where I'm like, oh, this is so stupid. Like I was upset about this, but the truth is they have no idea what they said to me bothered. That isn't about me, that's about that, or whatever the situation. That has always been like it. I get untriggered. I processed it, and it's
Yeah.
being intentful of taking the time when you're feeling triggered.
Self-awareness.
Yeah, when you're feeling triggered. Well, self-awareness, yes, and I think the next higher level of processing triggers is some kind of, not just like, oh, okay, I know that I'm sad right now, or I know that I feel defeated, but why do I feel like that? What do I want to come from this?
Yeah.
And then you take it further. Do you have control over changing the situation or yourself? If so, what changes will you make? Or if you cannot change anything about the situation, choose to let it go. And so it kind of comes down to, what am I doing with these emotions or this sugar? What are you going to do with it? And so that was one of the things I had shared, that I'm really working on, working through the triggers in my life, that they're minute, and it hasn't been a big issue in my life, but they're there. And I had said my goal is to live an untriggered life. Like, how phenomenal would it be is to, as things come and interactions and life experiences, to be able to be self-aware and process and
Yeah.
not internalize and not think it's my fault or it's me, but just the reality of the situation. Oh, okay, so I shared that, and this is where synchronicity comes in. I shared that. I'm going to share the text, because right when I had said I want to live an untriggered life, Michelle texted me in that moment. She said, because we were talking about, we were brainstorming about what we were going to talk about today for our podcast, and she said triggers, and I was like, she said triggers, self-awareness, mindfulness, emotional intelligence. I was like, I was just talking about this very minute in this group. So I couldn't
That's
wait to call you
amazing.
and tell you. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Confirmation.
Yeah.
I feel like I said, these synchronicities in life, I view them as miraculous and amazing. And if you have your eyes open and look for them, they'll come. And I view them as like confirmation. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This, in Celebrate Recovery and my recovery journey and my healing journey, and then here and with our podcast and sharing this. And so, yeah.
Yes. Exactly, as far as what you're saying is confirmation. Um, the fact that those thoughts came to me at the same time you were talking about it,
Yeah.
uh, and then this podcast too. Yes, we have been talking about doing this for a year,
Mhm.
and then nothing came of it. We were just like, hey, these are great conversations we're having. We should do it. Okay, let's do it. Okay, a month
In the
later, these are
conversation, we'd
great
be like,
conversations. We should talk. We should
yes.
do something. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, a month later, it took 12 months, but I mean, what I'm saying is, it never um something that's like a calling or something like that, like this. Um, it was a great idea, and then we let it go because it could have been an idea, but it kept coming back. It kept
Yeah.
coming back. It kept coming back in my head, at least. Um, no, get this out there, get this out there. I mean, there's not anything significant of what we say that other people aren't probably saying, but just to get it out there, because I'm sure a lot of people have these wonderful conversations in their own, group and stuff, and I want to be in those groups.
Hey, if
Oh,
you have wonderful conversations, leave your name here, comment, and we want to join in.
yes. And I just the handful of podcasts that I love listening to, I feel like there needs to be more out there. So I'm not saying we're special in any way or anything. It's just getting it out there, because I've been on my journey of uh, um self-help improvement, learning, whatever you want to call it, um my whole life, but it didn't take great effect until 10 years ago, and I've just, whatever I can share, however I can help. I'm not at all done growing and learning. Like you said, it turned into a passion of mine that I just want to keep getting better and better.
Yes.
And there is no ultimate until we're, there is no ultimate. As long as we're in this meat suit, this human body, we'll never get to, oh, I'm perfect. I'm where I
Right.
need to be. We're always going to be learning and growing. I don't want to stop that in any way. I love
Love
it.
it. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's refreshing. It's
I have to
always
say,
something new. I
it's
can't get
refreshing when we get to the other side. I feel like it's super painful when we're in the thick of it.
it.
Like I've been
Yes,
convicted or like, oh, I hate this about
I
myself.
mean,
Like, oh no, I didn't realize that. Or, I had an epiphany last year. I'm 40 something years old. No, you're in your 30s. I'm a couple years older than you. That is the truth. Um, and last year I have this discovery that I don't feel like my feelings are valid. And I never realized that I operated with that like core belief or that identity. I didn't realize that. So that to I'm still struggling to comprehend. I've done a lot of work in therapy about that. Um, I, it's yeah, it was a realization, and I still even struggle with that. And whenever you realize like one of your core beliefs, to break out, like that's your homeostasis, that's what you're used to. So to break out of it is super uncomfortable. It's hard. It can be painful at times because you're like, you know, I feel like the little baby bird in the egg, like pecking through the egg, ready to get out. Like, you know, here's another thing and here's another thing. But
It's
all
great.
those little pecks and all those little discoveries is just gonna, you know, and like you, I just want to share my experiences and my discoveries, and maybe it could enlighten and help someone else through this process. But self-awareness, I didn't even realize that I operated on that in that belief. I would have so yeah, it's been it can be painful. It's refreshing when you're working through it and get to like it was not
Desiree,
refreshing to discover that.
yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. I say that after being in therapy my whole life. I'm finally not
Mm,
done, but I'm finally somewhere where I could say it's refreshing.
yes.
My therapist that that I've done EMDR with for 10 years, she had a thing on her in her office, and it said, "Get in, get help, get out." And I think I was seeing her for 3 or 4 years, and I'm like, when does this happen? How
I'm in.
long? When does, like, those steps sound like it should happen within 6 months to a year? I'm like, when is this gonna happen? And she said, everyone's different. That was her answer, and she's right. And it took me 10 years. I want to say that mm, I I'm not officially out. I will never give her up. But I went from seeing her every week to I haven't spoke to her since, as in therapy, October, and in June. Um, I like, and she told me, you know, she wants to retire, but she said, you have my number. Like, I'm not retiring from you. Like, you're not a client,
Oh,
you're a family. And, um, but you're so right, Desiree. When I started seeing her 10 years ago, I started canceling because this is
oh,
hard work.
it's hard. It's
I'm
hard.
not, first of all, I'm going through depression. And then even just someone that is not in the hole, but has to work on themselves, doesn't want to face what is it, do the dirty laundry or whatever you want to call
Right.
it. They don't want
Yeah.
to face the darkness. And and then to be in the dark hole on top of that, I would
Mm.
cancel our appointments because I didn't want to get out of bed. And she understood that. But after canceling 3 times, she's like, do you really want to do this? Because you're wasting my time. And
Mm.
I'm like, no,
Mm.
I want to do it, but I don't want to do it.
Not really. I kind of, in theory,
Yeah.
I want to, in theory, but practically, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. So I mean, as soon as, you start taking off band-aids and you got unhealed wounds
Yes.
filling the air, it hurts, it's painful.
Yes.
And then you gotta clean it.
Yeah.
And then
What
you
a
gotta
beautiful
take the band-aid
analogy.
off
Right.
and let it heal, and then it's itchy, and then
Yeah.
you gotta go through all of that. And then finally you have scars, but they're not itchy no more. They're not painful no more. Uh
I love this visualization. I'm going to make a graphic for that. The I don't know. That's really good. And that's so true. You have these band-aids on these wounds. Oh, I think Taylor Swift is in her song how do you cover a bullet hole with a band-aid or something? I don't know. But you have these wounds, and I love that when you take it off, then it's exposed and it's oozing and it's bleeding. You gotta clean it and
clean
then
it.
tend to it, but not
Yeah.
put the band-aid back on,
Don't
because
put it
that
back
can,
on.
yes, and let it heal
Desiree,
and go through that
I
process.
have to tell you, I have to tell you those weren't my words, and I didn't
Oh.
quote it. It just
Oh.
flowed out of me right now.
Oh, so good. Thank you.
These things would happen when we would talk, and I was like,
Yeah.
just stuff would come out of me. I was like, I heard it. That it just those weren't my words. I don't. They just came out, but I kept. Yeah. Oh, that was wonderful.
That
And
was
then
so good.
yes, it makes so much sense, doesn't it?
It does. Absolutely. And then once it's healed, that's when it's refreshing. Like, oh, I had all these band-aids on. Oh my gosh, I had all these wounds I was trying to cover up.
Yeah.
But once you're done, you're getting through the healing process. That's the refreshing part of like, it's beautiful.
You have
And
the
it's
scars.
Hmm?
You do have scars sometimes,
yeah,
but it makes you who you are,
right.
and it makes you remember to not, it's a memory. It's not a negative memory. It's, oh, I grew from this. I learned from this. Not so painful anymore.
And these are the scars, are stories, right? Oh yeah, I got
Yeah.
this scar, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, and I got this scar.
Yeah.
So these are emotional scars, and this is what we're doing
Yeah.
with this podcast, is sharing
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
journey and what we've learned and what we've overcome and what we're dealing with and what we're still challenged with. And yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so I love that. Triggers. Okay, here's another thing. Do you have something to end or say? Because I'm gonna transition a little bit. I remember my boy. He is 16 now and incredibly well adjusted and balanced and amazing. I love my boy. He was incredibly volatile. I don't know, at ages. He was an angel in the hospital for 3 days, and literally the minute we got home, he cried, I think, for 4 months. Like, it wasn't colic, we didn't know what it was. I was breastfeeding, we tried my diet and all these different things. He was just very emotional, even as a baby, and then volatile as a toddler. He'd get so angry and frustrated. And I was a mental health rehabilitation specialist working with kids and families at that time that I had my son, and he was going through things. So I was being intentful with him and trying to. Oh, around that time, I had a friend, a super beautiful friend from middle school. I remember her telling me, like, something had happened, and you kind of hear when a kid's crying, like they get hurt at the park or something, and you hear parents say it all the time. It's okay, you're okay. It's fine, you're okay. And I remember her saying, she was like, but they're not okay to them. Their feelings are hurt, or they have a scratch, or they have like, she validated their feelings. It was just so beautiful. I remember that was an important lesson I learned in parenthood, is to not minimize the kids' feelings. If they're having these feelings, they can feel these feelings. We're just there to help coach and manage them and help them learn how to deal with them, not just say,
Yeah.
push it aside. And yeah, I love that advice that she gave. Like, you hear people say, oh, you're fine, stop crying, you're fine. Anyways, he would get so angry, and he'd bang his head on the floor when he was throwing tantrums.
God.
And he'd pull my hair, he'd spit, he'd, like, me and my husband, we and JR, I swear, every week we're like, okay, let's talk about our strategies here. What are we doing? We tried the spanking thing, we tried the timeout thing, we tried the ignoring thing, but I remember feeling so overwhelmed with his emotions. I had to work extra, extra hard to remain calm, because I wanted to freak out too. Like, I just, like, shut up or go cry, because I didn't know how to help him. And
Yeah.
so I
Or
remember,
handle your emotions from it.
huh?
Or handle your emotions from it.
Exactly. Like, just remain calm. I'm the adult. But he being, because you were saying your daughter has tantrums every day, and I remember those tantrum days, of those tantrum years, of like how to, handling my emotions whenever or if we're out in public and he's throwing a tantrum, I feel nervous or like, oh my gosh, like please stop. And everyone's judging me and oh my gosh. So yeah, it's a journey, especially as a parent. It's so important for us to learn how to manage our emotions and not get sucked into it because it's easy. You get hyped up and anxious and
Yeah.
not you, but just in general, it's
No,
easy to do.
I do.
Yeah.
I tell my husband I need to go outside in the middle of tantrums. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going
I need a
outside.
break. I'm gonna go
And
breathe.
yeah, I need 5 minutes, I tell him, and I go outside and I breathe. I sit down and I'm doing my breathing to calm myself down because you get swirled up in the tornado or hurricane
Yes.
or whatever you would call it of the emotions of your child. And it's not just that it's the way it sounds like it's annoying. It's you're hurting that they're hurting and you don't know what to do to help them. Uh, and
And
sometimes I
sometimes it
let
is
her cry it
annoyed.
out. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sometimes it is being annoyed. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's throwing another tantrum because I didn't slice the banana how he wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, just eat the banana. Like, there's
Because
kids around the world that don't have food. Just, they don't.
because I sliced the banana the way she asked me to, and she changed her mind in the middle of it,
Right.
and now it's all wrong. Even though she said she wanted it diagonal, but
Right.
now she wants it horizontal. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I'm saying like when I help them calm down, I do, but there's times where I can't take it
Mhm.
either, and it is overwhelming, and I need, but I don't stand there yelling at them. I say
Yeah.
I need a minute, and I leave. The coach, when I say leave, I go to the backyard or I go to the front yard, and I practice mindfulness. I take my breaths and I listen to the birds around. I love that there's so many birds around right now because it's sunny and
Yeah.
they're always calming. The birds are always calming, and I just yes, everyone's safe. We're okay. Everything's fine. And then
Yeah.
I take some more breaths and okay, and then I could go back in and she's done
Yeah.
tantruming too,
Oh.
and
Hold on.
yeah,
Oh, time out. Hold on.
yeah. So
Sorry. Hold on.
okay.
So I hooked up the shirt.
Okay, I have a funny bird story. I love birds too. One of the things I discovered moving to Ohio from California is that one of the things I never really even thought about ever in my life. There's no birds in the winter. Like you don't hear them chirping and then so all of a sudden there was an absence that first winter. Okay, so then springtime, I was walking out to get in my car to go to work, and I heard birds, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that I hadn't heard birds until I heard the birds in the springtime.
Yeah.
It must have been like February or March or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, birds, I love hearing birds. I'm like, I missed you, birds. So I get in my car and I roll down the windows and pull out, and I was so distracted by birds, I crashed my husband's car by
Oh
being
no!
distracted by birds. And I was pulling out and just not really paying attention. I hear this, and I'm like, oh, he's just scraped his car.
Because you were
Ugh.
looking at the birds.
I was listening to the birds and enjoying it and La La Land, and my one and only crash was because of birds.
Oh my gosh. You know, my
So
first, because yes, I've been involved in several accidents, but most of
sister
them are not my
confession.
fault.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. No, we won't.
but
That's
still,
that's a
it is
full podcast.
it is a sister confession. But my first one was because I love cars. I was a senior in high school, 2002, and I was driving my car, and I saw a car I never seen before. It was a Lincoln Navigator, but it was a truck, so it was a Aviator. I don't know what the truck is, but I've never seen it, but I've only seen that big SUVs. And in 2002, the Lincoln Navigators were brand new. Like they were top of the line. Like, oh my gosh, like those were the car you want to get. And I saw a Lincoln Navigator truck, and on the opposite, you know, I was driving this way, the cars were driving this way, the other way, and I looked in my rearview mirror because I saw it driving by. I was like, what? And I looked in my rearview mirror, like trying to figure out what it was. Forgot I was driving, and rear-ended the person in front of me.
Forgot I was driving.
I was trying to figure out what kind of car that was. Like, it's a truck. What is this? Yeah. So you, birds,
Birds,
me,
cars,
checking out cars.
checking out a car. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, I do want to, huh?
Women drivers.
Shh. I'm sure there's plenty of
Edit that
guys.
out. Edit that out. Edit that out.
I do want to wrap up the conversation about parenting young children because it is a really hard time, and it ties really into like emotional intelligence, self-regulate, emotional regulation. I mean, it's hard. You have to be so intentful. I remember, so I went to school, got my degree in social work, and my emphasis was child welfare. And I interned at Child Protective Services for a while. And because it's a passion of mine, I just feel like who could abuse their children? Like it's a heartbreak of mine. And so I wanted to make a difference and get involved and help the poor, vulnerable children who are, you know, subjected to abuse. But I remember when my boy was a couple years old and I was right in the middle and throes of it, and he's throwing a tantrum, and here I am, I'm educated and married and have a support system, and I felt overwhelmed. Like I got it. I could see how people can just not know how to manage their emotions and lash out, and like it's never okay. I'm not saying it's okay at all, but when I kind of empathize with those parents of like it's so overwhelming, especially, you know, the single mom who's working multiple jobs and exhausted and doesn't have money to pay bills and come home to, you know, these toddlers that are toddlers, you know, they have the energy and they don't listen. And so it gave me a lot of empathy for just all of that because yeah, it's hard raising young kids, and so important. So
Yeah, and you went into that field with your mindset of who could ever abuse children. Like
yes,
we were saying, this, we're not saying go abuse your children, but
no,
what we're saying is you don't you went into it without having kids, without knowing what it's like. What I'm saying is you had that mindset without having your own children. And then, and I'm relating to you because I had my own judgments of parents when I didn't have kids, and I was like, I wouldn't do that, or all these things, and I had no kids, and now I have kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I am no one to judge no one for anything. Like
for anything,
just doing the best you can. We're all,
right,
for the most part, doing. There are exceptions, and there is abuse out there that should never happen. Like we're not saying we're talking about just the day-to-day parenting, and I had no idea.
And if it does get to that point, please get help. Like there's, you know, there's resources out there. Take your kid to the neighbor's house and say, I really need a break right
Need
now.
5 minutes.
Yes,
like you need. Yeah.
But and that's kind of the same thing with what we're talking about. Self-awareness and intentionality is like you have to be intentional to care for yourself and to learn how to manage your emotions. Like if you feel like you're getting to that breaking point, no matter what's happening in your life, like get help. There's lots of help out there. There's therapists. They even have like teletherapy now where you can Zoom therapy. There's support groups. There's that Michelle would say, first, are you hungry? Do you need a snack?
Yeah. Have you showered? Like,
Have you showered?
even those,
Right. How's
even
your
those
sleep?
small things, yeah,
Make a big difference.
make a big difference. I remember, I mean, with the little ones, me and my husband, me and my husband, coordinate who's gonna shower and when. I mean, so single parents, they can't coordinate. Like, when's the
Right.
last time they showered? Seriously, it is impossible to shower with little ones. Like, you need
Why is it so hard?
coordination. You need a babysitter for 5 hours so you could shower and eat and take a nap.
Yeah, right. And it's important. That's self-care. That all that is important. So we would love to start a conversation. If any of you guys have young children or have parented young children, what did you do to care for yourself? What did you do to help yourself in these challenging times? You know, we're still learning. We would love tips and tricks on different techniques and ideas, and you know, we just want to get the conversation going. That's what this is about.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Anything else? I mean, there's always
No, I checked my notes during our break, and we touched everything that I wanted to bring up. So
all
it was a
right.
good
Well,
podcast.
it was good. Always great to talk with you. And I feel like emotional intelligence, all these different components, it's so vast. Like there's so much to talk about. Right in my world right now is triggers and identifying them and processing them and tending to them. Um, that's what I've been working on, and it's been life changing. Like I didn't realize how often I was triggered, and even now I still even kind of battle that when you think about triggered, like it's a big deal, but it could be just the smallest trigger that continues to grow over time or whatever. And so it's important to tend to those things. And
So I just wanted to touch real quick on the triggers, like you're saying. My husband is well aware of the word trigger, and it's not that he's doing anything wrong or anything. It's my own things, and I let him know that I'm being triggered so that he knows that it's not him. I'm not mad at him. There's something that happened, something he said, or a situation. It doesn't even have to be him all the time. It's just so he knows what's going on with me, and I'm telling him that I was triggered, and I let him know. And there's a whole discussion about it. It's not just I'm triggered and I need to go. I let him know what it is and what I'm dealing with, and so trigger is a thing. And he's well aware of it, and he knows and appreciates that I'm working on it, and it's not something to fight over or anything. It's just this caused this feeling for me, and it made it. And then to identify the trigger, okay, it made you feel this way because of what? And like, I've been through all the torn off band-aids. I know what scab I need to work on, and I'm telling him it's this boo-boo right here. See this? I need to pour some more hydrogen peroxide, okay? And it's not you. Like,
yeah,
you know, you blew some wind on my scab right now, and it's irritating.
irritated. Yeah,
But it's
I
not
mean,
you, it's my scab. So the trigger thing is
big.
it's continuous, but gets less and less as time
Yeah.
goes on. And now I'm trying to use the emotional intelligence for my children, and working with others, and not just working with others like my workplace, but just interacting with others. And something they say that bothers me, that could be a trigger, or it could just be something that bothers me. But I'm like, okay, it's not that person. So then I don't get a bad taste in my mouth for that person. It's not them. That's similarly to, identifying with I am depressed versus I have depression. Like that person said something, but that person isn't those words. Like it, so that I don't start, because I already do, there's people you don't like because of certain things, but you know what? That's not that person. You haven't been in their shoes. You haven't gone through their journey in their life to act the way they act. Like we all start out as pure, beautiful babies. Like they didn't come out the womb an a-hole. Like there's life circumstances that cause them to be the way they are. So my journey right now is to look at people with compassion and love and see them as the newborn baby they were, and that they're acting the way they're acting because of all the stuff they've been through, and I don't
Right.
have any idea what they've gone through.
Right.
So who am I to not like that person? I am not there, but that is what I'm working on to get to
Yes.
where I have just love for everyone all the time,
Yeah.
even if they are inappropriate, or, not saying that I'm going to let people walk all over me, but to
Yeah.
have compassion and love for
Everybody.
everyone.
And not being judgmental. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Michelle, I love that. And when you were talking about your processing your triggers with your husband, I was thinking the same thing about like just any close relationship, friendships, family members, like whenever you're intimately close with someone and have a relationship, it's going to come up. And
Yeah.
how beautiful would it be for us to be more intentional with those relationships and tend to those things, and being open and vulnerable of like, hey, this is what I've been dealing with, and I just wanted to share that with you. That was another thing that I learned in my therapist is working with me about, is not necessarily since this is my issue, me work on my triggers. I don't need to share it
Sure.
every single one with my husband or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's pertainable and if it's important, yes, like bring it
Yeah.
up. But these are things that I'm working on, and
Exactly.
I need to handle it myself. And
Yes. That's
yeah.
right. And I've lived that way. That has been our relationship, because he met me when I was like 2 years into therapy. So I was not I had a lot of scabs. I didn't have scabs. I had a lot of open wounds, not even scabbed yet. So, but yes, I knew it was my thing, and I would go through, anything that would come up, I would bring it to my therapist and say, is this like, is this critical or severe enough to
Yeah.
work through with him? And she
Yeah.
would always ask me, well, is it like, is it that important to you? Like, and that was another thing. Like, no, you need to tell me.
Tell me,
I'm
right?
here for you to tell me. And it's like they're always answering you with questions. Their answer is a question to you, and but it made me, think more about it and be like,
In
no,
a deeper way. Yeah.
this is something I need to work through. And if it was something I needed to go home and talk about, I asked her for guidance on how to talk about it in a productive way so it doesn't turn into a fight, because that's what so many relationships, all I want to say 95% of it is miscommunication. The fighting is, and then there are two people that neither of them understand what's going on inside them, and they
Right.
have their baggage and they have their baggage, and they come into a relationship and they want to hold each other's baggage when
You
that
haven't even dealt with
their
your
baggage
own.
is already heavy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's everywhere. If you're not working on yourself, then I don't mean everyone has, Yeah, I do mean that. Everyone has to work on it. Like we were all not raised by God. Like we were raised by people. Our parents or whoever raised you were people that had their own garbage, like baggage or whatever you want to call it. And me too. Like I'm gonna put my son and my daughter in therapy as soon as they turn 10 and they could actually do things, because you do your best, but you have your stuff
Right.
and it vomits onto them, and then they're trying to, yeah, like, yeah. So yes, we all, yeah,
But what we can do is be more self-aware and just try to be
yeah,
intentful and tend to the things that we become aware of, and accept that all of our kids are probably going to be in therapy for something that we didn't even realize or we didn't even mean to. But in the process, just know that we were doing our best, and we were, yeah, just doing our best. So
yeah.
that's all we can
Do
do.
your best, and yeah, not to take it personal. Like if I'm gonna try my hardest to be like, it was wonderful therapy for me. So I want, I'm not gonna be, oh, I failed, even though I say that already for other things. But I'm only human. I'm only
Right.
human and I'm not perfect. And there's probably some things my son needs that my daughter doesn't need, and some things
Right.
my daughter needs that my son doesn't need. And I have to navigate all that. And gonna miss. I'm gonna miss. I'm not gonna get the bullseye every time.
Right.
Or even the whole thing. I'm gonna go outside.
Yeah.
I'm trying though.
Yeah. And that's what there's a lot of people who are not self-aware. And so just even being intentful of wanting to be self-aware is profound. And so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, even just trying to be self-aware and mindful, and of the emotions that's going on, and resetting that in and of itself is 5-10 times more
Yeah,
than you not doing that.
absolutely. Agreed. All right. Well, should we
It was
give
a
it
good
another
one.
hour? Yeah, that's good. I think we'll
Alright.
wrap it up here.
Yeah, I got a family waiting for me.
um And if anyone has any thoughts, we would love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear, where you're at in this journey or anything else that you want to comment on. We want to, like I said before, we want to keep this conversation going, open
Yes.
it up to you guys. This is, just a discussion and where we're at in our journey and what we've learned and can learn from you too. So thank you guys for tuning in to another Sister Confession, and we'll see you next time. All
See you
right,
next
Michelle.
week. Bye,
Bye.
Desiree.